When people think of Visa, they think of credit cards, but Visa is so much more than just a credit card company. It's a technology and innovation company that's making digital payments a reality for consumers, businesses, banks, and governments all around the world. At Visa, they have a simple and unwavering vision that can be traced back to their beginnings in 1958 to be the best way to pay and be paid for everyone, everywhere. They know that every Visa transaction is a promise. Whether you're at a food truck outside the stadium or paying your fancy league dues online, Visa wants to provide you with the most secure and easy payment experience possible. All you have to figure out is, where would you like to be? Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's Nick Wright. Chris Broussard hanging with us this morning. What's up, Chris?
Man, I am glad to be here. What's happening?
How are you?
That was solid.
Like
that was very bromantic. That was
This person right here is one of my favorite human beings in the world. I've only known him for about 3 years. He's one of the most genuinely kind people in the world, and aside from a few incorrect basketball opinions, I got no beef with him whatsoever.
How am I going to follow that up? You also are
I gave you a huge compliment. You love me now.
You did. I got a little. You lost a little weight. Broussard is good for the rest of my life. Week 12 is officially in the NFL books, capped off by a doozy. Hottest quarterback on the hottest team stayed hot again last night. That's where we dive in. That's where we start this morning. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in L.A. taking on the Rams. Another week, another edition of Action Jackson as he continues his MVP push, finishing 15 of 20, 169 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You want more? Lamar added 95 more yards on the ground. Ravens, as Nick would say, mollywhopped the Rams 45-6 to win their 7th straight game. Here's Lamar Jackson after his career night.
I'm trying to win the Super Bowl, and we taking the game at a time. I'm not worried about MVP, you know. If it come, I'll be satisfied, but I'm trying to win the Super Bowl. That's a team award, and that's what I want.
You know what, Nick, a lot of guys stand up at the podium, and maybe you believe them, maybe you don't. I actually believe him. I believe that he's so zone-focused on just winning the Super Bowl this year. But are you surprised Lamar is this good in year 2?
I'm surprised, and I think you have to be surprised. And I was a believer in Lamar Jackson. I was someone that thought some of the pre-draft noise around him was unfair, and that as you saw that he might fall out of the first round entirely, I found myself saying, what are teams doing? This is a guy who, with the right coaching, with the right development, by his 3rd year in the league, can be a legitimate starting quarterback. That's what I thought. Well, by his 2nd year in the league, he's going to be the league MVP. So, yeah, I'm surprised. And almost all year long at the quarter pole, at the halfway mark, 10 days ago, I said Russell Wilson's your league MVP. Lamar has been gaining ground. Russell just had, even though they won, one of his worst games of the year. Lamar is playing a stretch of football right now that you can put up against any month any quarterback has ever played in the history of the league. Lamar's now taken the lead. So, in the MVP race, he right now is the most dangerous player in the league from what he showed you he can do with his arms last night, what he's shown you he can do with his legs all year. And so, yes, I'm surprised, and I believed in him. The folks out there that were saying that he was either a flash in the pan or wouldn't work in the NFL, they're not surprised by this. They're just dead wrong on him. But I feel like I was one of Lamar's biggest proponents coming out of Louisville. And I did not see anything close to this coming, certainly not this early.
You were a believer. Did you ever think MVP?
No.
Like in his whole career?
No.
You said it right. You can't help but be surprised. After what I saw last year in the playoffs against the Chargers, okay, when he had 2 completions, 17 yards passing in the first half, and they were the only team to see him twice. I didn't think, I was questioning whether or not he'd be a long-term starter in this league because that's how bad it was. I know he came back in the second half, 4th quarter with 2 touchdowns, but they were playing prevent. It was over. So I thought teams had figured him out. If you see him twice, you're going to figure him out. And the passing. I mean, he completed, 58% of his passes last year. Wasn't that accurate. I just didn't know that he would be able to improve this much as a passer. So I am stunned. My question with him was more so his health. Like, could you run that often in the NFL and stay upright? And so I knew he could be successful
he's healthy,
momentarily.
right?
But
Sure.
I didn't think you'd stay healthy.
But real quick on the health thing, that's still a concern.
Yeah, we still
Right.
don't know the answer.
Every game is going to be.
But what he is showing is that if something at some point happens to his athleticism, either due to injury or age, he is showing that he has the ability, is the building blocks of a guy who can beat you without having to run the way he is. Because just a month ago, it would have been, to me, a more fair question, Jenna. How effective can he be without running? Weeks 3 through 7, he wasn't that great passing the football. Had 4 touchdowns, 5 picks, had a 75 rating. Now, one of those games was a game against Seattle where he was brilliant running the football. Another game against Cincinnati, he's brilliant running the football. But it was more this hybrid Mike Vick 2.0. But since then, the last 4 weeks, he has 13 touchdowns passing. 0 interceptions. He has a 142 quarterback rating. Perfect is 158.3. And in addition to that, he's rushed for 300 yards. What he's done over the last month, basically from the middle of October to now, is put it all together for a team that also, team-wise, they added Marcus Peters. He's playing like the Kansas City version of Marcus Peters. The rest of their secondary got healthier. They're playing more like Baltimore Ravens defense, which is why right now, this moment, they look like the best team in the league.
So I was going to say the same thing. You know that if he does get hurt, which is very possible the way he plays, unlike sometimes with Cam Newton or Michael Vick, you know that he can rely on that arm, which you've seen the last couple of weeks. And if you listen to some of what the Rams had to say after the game, it was almost as if they went up against someone the likes of which they'd never seen before. His speed surprised them, his versatility, the way he moves the ball. It's like they prepared for him, but they didn't really understand it until they saw it up close and sort of in real time. What is the ceiling for Lamar Jackson, Chris?
Hall of Fame. One of the all-time greats. There's no question about it. Look, obviously he has the talent. As you talked about the throwing improving, obviously he's got the running game, and he has the intangibles. It's rare to see that combination of physical ability and talent and the intangibles. The way his teammates and coaches talk about him, that shows you he doesn't, and let's be honest, at the podium, he doesn't look like a great leader. He doesn't sound like a great leader, but he says all the right things, and the way his teammates rally around him, even last year in the playoff game, when fans were chanting Joe Flacco and all that upset a lot of his teammates. John Harbaugh stuck with him. I was saying go to Flacco because you got to throw the ball to get back in it. He stuck with Lamar, and that shows that this guy has the intent. We know he works hard because he's improved his passing, but I think his ceiling is the Hall of Fame. And look, if you're running the way he is, I don't think you're going to have a long career if he stays upright. Cam Newton has played essentially 8 seasons. This is his 9th. And he's twice as big as Lamar. And you see the hits, the toll that the hits have taken on him. So this may be a situation where running like this, you might have 6, 7 great years like this. He has shown the ability, maybe by then he can transition to almost strictly a passer. But even if he doesn't, if you get 10 years of this.
Well, that's the thing is, at this point, like,
great.
longevity can be overrated in this regard. Peyton Manning was obscenely healthy his entire career in Indy until he had the neck surgery. He won 1 Super Bowl. Right. You know, Drew Brees has been wildly healthy. He's won 1 Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been as healthy. He's won. What if they win the Super Bowl this year?
Right.
Then who cares about what it looks like in 2026 if they win a Super Bowl or even get to one this season? Special athletes, they reach their ceiling much quicker than we expect. You know when LeBron reached his ceiling? Right around year 2. Like, now he developed further. He got the playoff reps. But look at his numbers in year 2 and compare them to anything else. Luka Doncic. He will never be better than he is right now. It's almost impossible. Now, the question is, how long can you maintain it, do it in the big moments? Lamar's ceiling is what we're watching. He'll never be better than this. You can't be better than this.
He can improve his passing.
Well, I mean, over the last month, he's 13 touchdowns, 75% passing, and 9 yards per attempt. Like, maybe he can make it look better, but he can't be more effective than he is right now. And in fact, what I think, Patrick Mahomes, to keep it in football, he'll never be better than he was in year 2. The question is, can you maintain it? When the league starts to get more information on you, when your athleticism wanes, when you have a bad injury luck for your teammates around you, can you maintain it? So I think we're watching the ceiling. And Hall of Fame or not, a lot of that does have to do with longevity. A lot of that does have to do with injury luck, these types of things. But we are watching a guy who, at his age, he's younger than Joe Burrow, who's going to be the #1 pick of the draft, who at his age is the most dangerous player in the league, and they can win the Super Bowl right now. To me, all the rest is almost noise. Like, I don't know what he looks like in 2024. I don't know what the world looks like in 2024. I know in 2019, Baltimore there might be 2 quarterbacks in the whole league they would swap him out for, and they wouldn't feel great about it.
And the most important thing, right now, the Ravens have tied their best record since 2012, the year they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Exactly.
And by the way, if the Patriots slip up one time, the road to the Super Bowl could go through Baltimore.
Yes, it can.
Because they have that head-to-head
Lamar
tiebreaker.
Jackson is 22 years old, which sometimes when you think about everything he's done,
It makes me feel like a bit of a failure.
LeBron James sprinting down the floor to deny DeJounte Murray with a vintage chase down block.
And the Spurs were whining after this, saying it was in the cylinder. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. You're right.
You just got a dude in year 17 in the middle of November saying, I'm going to go full speed and go chase you down.
I love it. I can't believe the naysayers. Oh, he's playing too hard. What are you supposed to do?
Take time off, guys. It's the cool new thing.
All right, let's stick with this game.
Okay, if we have to.
For your prime performance, sponsored by Whole Foods Market. Color the classics this holiday. And LeBron James showcasing that you're right, Nick. Even in year 17, he can still carry his team. The King finishing with 33 points, including 12 in the fourth quarter, to go along with 14 assists as the Lakers extend their win streak to 8 games. Here's LeBron after the win.
It's weird. I don't know. Every time I tell you guys that this is the best I felt, you guys kind of get like all right. And then I go out and I'm able to do what I do. But that's how I feel, man. I feel my spring, my like I said, my quick twitch, my mind is sharp, my body is good. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Maybe the wine I'm drinking. Keep drinking some more if I'm gonna keep doing this.
Or every once in a while, don't make the playoffs, have a bunch of extra months to rest, get your body right, and come back out and do this in year 17. Nick, you surprised by LeBron's output at this point in his career?
I got to admit it, much like with Lamar. Yeah, I'm a little surprised.
Really?
I'm surprised.
I'm shocked that you're surprised.
Well, listen,
By him or by the team record?
Both. Listen, I thought the Lakers would get out to a fast start because the schedule was soft early and they had to get out to a fast start. And I thought LeBron would remind people that he's still the best player in basketball. I did not think he would be playing every game. I did not think he'd be top 6 in the NBA in minutes per game and total minutes. And I did not think he would, like this, seamlessly reinvent himself as the best point guard in basketball. We've heard over multiple years, LeBron's going to start doing this differently. He's going to, and then every year it's like, no, he's going to just do what he's always done. He's playing a different brand of basketball this year. Still wildly effective, but he's never been this much of a distributor with this type of basketball team. And I'm also surprised he is caring this much on the defensive end. There was a moment last night where he missed a free throw, which it's right now, it's his kryptonite. It's in his head.
Well, it has been.
It has been. A few years ago, he had fixed it because he was lane violating on every free throw. They then stopped letting him do it, and since then, it's been in his head. But the possession after he missed the free throw, Lakers were up 10 or 11 points midway through the fourth quarter. LeBron got in. Remember, like the Wojo kid from Duke, that low defensive stance when he'd slap the floor?
Oh, yeah.
LeBron got in that defensive stance 35 feet from the basket. Like, I'm going to make up for it here. That surprised me as well. Because what I've said about LeBron, Broussard, is much like Tom Brady during the regular season decided I'm not taking hits. LeBron, I justified it in years past. During the regular season is saying I have to rest on the court at some point. I will be around defensively in the playoffs. But the Lakers are the best defensive team in basketball. Anthony Davis is the biggest factor of that, but LeBron's a close second. So those things do surprise me, even though he's the guy that I've been saying is the greatest player of all time.
I would like to think that LeBron saw my Instagram post in the preseason.
I believe he did.
I said, look, these are the 3 things LeBron needs to do to win a championship with the Lakers this year. Play point guard. Obviously, he's doing that. Be engaged and focused defensively. I didn't think he could be this good defensively at this stage of his career, but just be engaged, be focused, communicate. He's gone beyond that. And the third thing, no drama. I mean, usually at this point in the season, we have seen drama, especially LeBron's first time somewhere. Back to Cleveland with Kyrie the first year. In Miami the first year, you saw drama. LeBron has been great, and look, I'm not surprised because I picked the Lakers. Everything within me was essentially telling me, pick the Clippers. And I'm telling you, as good as the Lakers look, for a guy that picked them, the Clippers scare me. They are legit. Forget their record. They are tough. They've beaten, Boston, Houston.
They beat the Lakers in the first game.
They've beaten all the good teams in the league. Toronto, everybody except Milwaukee. And so they're scary. But I picked the Lakers solely, they've got good supporting cast and AD, but I figured LeBron would come out with a vengeance. I figured he had at least one more bullet in the holster or in the gun, and he was going to unload it this season. Look, there was every reason to do it. They're writing you off. You're not the best player in the world anymore.
Washed king.
You're 35 years old. Right, all that. He obviously heard it. Here's the interesting thing that many people may not have thought about. Jordan, the summer that he spent filming Space Jam, he was in essentially the same situation. Remember, the year before, he had come back from baseball. Nick Anderson stole the ball from him in the playoffs. They get eliminated by Orlando in the second round.
Real quick, for young people watching, I know the NBA's burnt the tapes, but that did happen. Michael Jordan lost in the playoffs.
I knew you.
In the middle of those six championships, there was a year he played and they lost. We don't ever talk about it.
I don't count that year.
Of course, nobody counts that year. Anyone Chris Broussard's generation or older, they pretend that year didn't count. But
I almost did not bring up this great anecdote.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. So they get knocked out, then he's filming Space Jam.
He's filming Space Jam. Again, people writing him off. Nick Anderson said, 23 was great, but 45 the number he wore, he comes back out, they win 72, go 72-10, begin another three-peat. This is similar. Obviously, he's compared to Jordan the most. And this is ironically similar at this point.
Can I just devil's advocate for a second? No one thinks he's coming out too fast, too hard, both offense and defense, doing it all, making sure he's getting the. No one's worried that this is going to last maybe another 20 games and then he's going to have to take a long breather?
I would be worried with any other athlete ever this side of maybe Karl Malone. Karl Malone showed an ability to play 80-plus games, 35-plus minutes, and was indestructible until the very end.
Right.
The other reason I'm not concerned, Jenna, is what you said in the beginning. I know you were saying it a little tongue-in-cheek, but it is absolutely right. LeBron played 55 basketball games between June of 2018 and October of 2019. That had to feel like someone who hasn't gotten a vacation from work in 3 years getting 2 weeks off. Like maybe to someone who takes 2 weeks off every summer, it doesn't feel that great. But for someone who's been grinding for 3 years, it feels like 3 months off. What LeBron was able to do for his body because of the injury and the missed playoffs, it to me was so much better than if he had drugged that Lakers team to the playoffs last year. What he did his last year in Cleveland was important to me for his legacy. Last year in Cleveland, Kyrie's gone. People are writing us off. I will play all 82. I will lead the league in minutes. I will drag this motley crew to the NBA Finals. 7 games in the first round, 7 games in the conference finals, 51-9-9 in game 1 of the finals before it break my hand in frustration and it all falls apart. But that was the culmination of 8 consecutive years where he played in the first game of the year and the last game of the year. It was not, even LeBron was going to need some type of break. He didn't mean to get it last year, but he got it. Now, I don't think he's going to play all 82 this year, but I think he's going to play at least 76. I think there's going to be only a handful of games he sits out. And, they do have the best record in basketball. But if they had one more loss, they wouldn't. And so all of these, no matter what the Clippers tell you, all these games actually do matter. So no, I think LeBron's doing exactly what the team needs to do.
I asked his agent, Rich Paul, about this just last week, and he said, look, LeBron feels better when he's playing. He wants to play. And, there are some guys like that. You mentioned Karl Malone. His 17th year, he averaged, 38 minutes a game. Kobe in his 17th year, 38 minutes a game. Now, he got hurt late,
popped his
like the
Achilles
last
at the
few
end of
games,
the year, and it was over.
Yes, but they averaged 38 at that point. Here's what we can't do. We can't let Kawhi Leonard's load management become the norm. and make us feel like a guy that plays 75 to 80 games is doing something wrong.
Correct.
You know, I mean, if Kawhi wasn't load managing, or that just wasn't even an issue, you know, say that he didn't exist and we didn't think about load management, I think we'd be looking at LeBron saying he's playing a career low 35 minutes. He is kind of dialing it back. We cannot let load management become the norm.
And people will say, well, before Kawhi, it was Duncan with the Spurs. Look at Duncan's career until the very, very end. He was playing 74 games minimum.
80 games several years.
Several years, but even when they were like, oh, he's load managing, when the NBA got in trouble for it a few years ago, Duncan was still playing 74, 75 games a year. What once was load managing was, once every 3.5 weeks, I might take a game off. Not once every 3.5 games. Now, Kawhi has turned it into that. And like the guys who were the two biggest load managers last year, Kawhi and Embiid, both had injury issues that you understood it. I don't understand it quite as much with Kawhi this year. But Giannis, LeBron, Harden, part of their greatness is I'm showing up to work every night and my team can rely on me. And so, no, for normal athletes, yeah, it might be something, not for this guy.
Last segment, we talked about Lamar doing all that at age 22. LeBron's doing all this. He turns 35 in a couple of weeks. Talk about same production on both ends of the spectrum. All right, on to the Dallas Cowboys now, where Jason Garrett has consistently been on the hot seat for 10 years running. Can't be comfortable. But a recent report says the Cowboys aren't planning any immediate changes, and Jason Garrett is brushing off the criticism that's been pouring in, especially after Sunday's bad loss to the New England Patriots. Nick, would Dallas be making a mistake sticking with Garrett the rest of this season?
Yes.
This season?
They would be making a mistake. Now, they can't fire him right now because they play in 2 days. So the Thursday game screws that up. But if they lose Thursday, they then, by the way, play the next Thursday. They play back-to-back Thursday games, then they have a long layoff. If they lose Thursday and they're like, well, let's see what he does the week after, and then against Chicago, and then we have 10 days, season could be lost. Because Philly, as bad as they've been, they got 2 left against the Giants. They play Washington, play Miami. Dallas is the most underachieving team by talent in the league this year. They looked great the first 3 weeks of the season.
Bad team.
Not only bad teams, horrible teams. Those 3 teams they beat those first 3 weeks, the Giants, Washington, and Miami, right now would have the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th picks of the draft. They are combined, they're all 2-9. So they're combined 6-27 on the year. Since then, they've had to play real teams. They've lost 5 of 8. What would the Cowboys be with an above-average coach? They've drafted incredibly well.
Right.
They have not yet had to pay their quarterback, so right now they're in that perfect window of all this talent. Dak, prior to this week, playing the best ball of his career, making $1 million or $2 million. And to be 6-5 is all about coaching. To not be able to win close games, to not be able to start games off well, to not understand time, score, situation, and the feel of the game, that is on Jason Garrett. Broussard, I'm convinced they're firing him after this year. And if you want to salvage this season, even though there's not a lot of stories of interim coach leads team on playoff run, I see no downside to moving on from him at the earliest possible date.
Who's becoming the interim coach?
Well, you have Rod Marinelli, who's been a coach before, and you have Chris Richard, both on the defensive side of the ball. Richard, people think will be a coach one day, so you could either elevate him, leave Marinelli where he is, or elevate Marinelli and elevate Richard into full-time defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I agree with you that he's gone at the end of the year. I mean, I was thinking before the season started they had to reach the conference championship game
that's what I thought too,
to save his job. Now you probably got to get to the Super Bowl because Jerry wants to fire him. And, I mean, the fact that this is the first time he's come out and publicly criticized the coaching. We know how close Garrett is to the family and all that. They love him. For him to come out and say the things he did after that game shows you how upset he is. So I do agree with you. It's a strange situation in that this guy is absolutely gone after the season, barring a miraculous playoff run. So why not do it now? But to your point, in the NBA, you see it every once in a while. Mm-hmm. In the NFL, I can't think of one off the top of my head where an interim coach
the
led some
Cavs
great
won
run.
a title.
Right.
They fired their coach midway through the year, and they won a title with Ty Lue.
And they knew Ty Lue was their guy going forward. That's a little different. I don't think, I mean, look, if Rashard were to get the job and lead them to some great run, maybe you keep him. But I think they want like a Lincoln Riley. So if you bring in an interim now and he does well,
what do you do?
Now you got a question. So I don't think you fire him now.
Is so unfortunate because not only are they so skilled and not only have they sort of surrounded Dak with all these great players because money is not an issue with Dak Prescott, but Dak's playing fantastic. Dak's having the year no one thought he was going to have. If anything, Zeke has sort of stepped back just a little bit, and he's still playing great. So to be able to not capitalize on having a guy like Dak Prescott, who that was the only player that we were sort of questioning, have the season he's having, that's unfortunate.
There are 14 teams in the league with as many or more wins than Dallas. There are maybe 2 teams in the league with more talent. There are only 3 teams in the league who have a better point differential than Dallas. They're the 3 best teams in football, record-wise. New England, San Francisco, and Baltimore. Dallas is 4th. So what does that tell you? It tells you that they are blowing out the bad teams, aside from the Jets, and in close games against good teams, they cannot get a victory. And also, Jason Garrett yesterday did a radio interview that I found shocking. Not shocking that this is true, but shocking he would admit it. He was asked about if he's aware of win probability models and things such as why you should have gone for it on that 4th down instead of kicking a field goal down 7 late in the 4th quarter. And he very curtly, very flatly said, we don't use any of those numbers during the game. It's very interesting. Because last week there was an article, I think in the Wall Street Journal, that John Harbaugh and the Ravens, a team that is overachieving maybe more than any team in football, did what I have been begging, literally the exact thing I've been begging teams to do for a decade. Hire a kid out of an Ivy League school, have him model out your game situations. Harbaugh talked about doing exactly that. I think the kid went to Yale.
Yeah.
And that they use the information to help them make their decisions.
And you see it, how aggressive Harbaugh is with calls, going for it all the time.
And putting your team in the right position. Jason Garrett also in that interview said if it was 4th and 3 or shorter, maybe we would have gone for it. Well, that shows a disconnect because you had 2nd and 7. And if you know you might go for 4th and short, then on 2nd or 3rd, maybe run the damn ball and try to give yourself that. There is no justification to keep him. He's had longer. Every coach who's been tenured as long as he has been to at least 1 Super Bowl. Every coach who's on this list has won a Super Bowl. And then there's Jason Garrett, who's got 2 playoff wins. We know he's not going to be the coach next year. I don't know why he needs to be the coach 10 days from now.
But he's such a nice guy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Such a good
That's why he's got
the Giants want to hire him. That'll be exciting. McAdoo to Shermer to Garrett. My God.
On to Monday Night Football. Jared Goff and the Rams hosting the Ravens. And once again, Goff had a night to forget. Finished with 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and 0 touchdowns. Rams getting blown out 45-6 a year after representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. LA drops to a disappointing 6-5. Here's head coach Sean McVay after the loss.
We're all in this thing together, but I feel as responsible as anybody, and just put your head down and go grind and find a way to just get ready for next week, because just dwelling on this doesn't do you any good. And you can't run away from the problems that we did have tonight, but allowing it to set ourselves back is what this team will not do. I can promise you guys that.
Nick, we couldn't glorify this team and the young, hotshot, effervescent head coach more last season. Anyone that knew Sean McVay was considered a coaching candidate somewhere else. Were the Rams just a one-hit wonder?
Absolutely, and the hit wasn't that good. I mean, they got crushed in the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a one hit, but the last song in the album kind of flopped, and it didn't leave you that excited for the second one. The Rams are in I can't believe I'm saying this, but the more I think about it, other than Washington because of their ownership situation, and Detroit because of just the history and the malaise, I don't know if there's a team in the NFL in a worse position moving forward than the Rams. They don't have their draft picks. They've traded those away. They're going to go 5 years without making a first-round pick. Next year, they have the single biggest cap hit of any player in football. That's Jared Goff. He right now is the 32nd rated quarterback in football. It's a 32-team league. They have the 3rd highest paid cap hit-wise defensive player in the entire league. It's Aaron Donald. Now, at least he earns his money. They have the highest cap hit of any running back in football. Todd Gurley, he is not what he once was. They have the 5th biggest cap hit of any receiver in football. It's Brandon Cooks. God bless him. But he is one concussion away from his career being over, and some could argue he shouldn't be playing right now. And even without extending Jalen Ramsey, he's a top 10 corner cap hit-wise just because of the fifth-year option. They have gone all in on this team, these players, with no path to get better, no cap space, no draft picks, and they're not any good, Broussard. And I know yesterday was about Lamar and the Ravens. Your season is hanging by a thread. To get annihilated like that is unforgivable, and McVay's got to own some of that as well.
I agree with everything you said, except I would not put them down there with the Redskins. This is a year-to-year league. We know that we see teams go from worst to first. I mean, them going from first to worst or, a bad season. We see this happen. And what differentiates most teams year to year, a lot of it is coaching. So I think what we're going to find out is what is Sean McVay really made of. Look, Bill Belichick undressed him in the Super Bowl. And now everyone else has used that model to slow down this great offense. Can McVay adjust? Now, Ty Gurley is not the same, and that's horrible.
He had like 22 yards last night.
It's killed their play action. Goff now is being exposed. I get it. But if Sean McVay is 80% of the coach that we've all applauded him as being the last few years, then he can, I think, turn this team around. Because Goff can be serviceable. Gurley, okay. But a lot of the players you mentioned are still good. Okay, you're going to have Jalen Ramsey. That's good to have. You still got Aaron Donald. They still got some good players.
I want to be clear. When I say they're in the worst position other than Washington and maybe Detroit, I don't mean they're going to have the worst record. I don't mean that they're going to be drafting in the top 3. Well, they're not going to be drafting. But that if they were going to be drafting. My point is they have no way to get to where they need to get to. The worst thing you can be in the NFL is pot committed with a losing hand. And they are pot committed now. Like Goff can be serviceable. But would you rather have a serviceable car that costs you $240,000 or a bad one that was free? I might rather have a bad one that was free and spend my money elsewhere. Goff is not. This year he's been a terrible quarterback. He can be better than that. But he is the biggest cap hit of any player in the league next year in a hard cap sport. They went all in, believing their own hype, and the Ramsey trade was even doubling and tripling down on that. Last night, the best corner on the field was Marcus Peters, who they gave away, and they traded 2 first-round picks for Jalen.
And maybe Goff can't be better. Maybe you're right. Maybe Goff looked great because Gurley was great. And now without Gurley, you don't know if you're going to have Goff again the way he was. Coach, are you surprised Lamar is this good in year 2?
I am surprised, and I look at this a little bit as year 1 because it's year 1 with Greg Roman, and to me that marriage is the perfect marriage. And when they decided to elevate Greg Roman to offensive coordinator and pair him with Lamar Jackson, that makes a ton of sense. And Greg is one of the best that I've been around in terms of developing runs and developing quarterback-driven runs. And he does a great job with that. In terms of the passing game, I thought he made some nice throws. My favorite throw that he made was the comeback on the left-hand side. It's those type of throws that I'm looking for from him to see his development as a passer. A bunch of the other ones, shallow cross, things like that, those aren't as impressive, especially based off the coverage he's getting, because they're trying to stop the running game. But the marriage between him and Greg Roman, to me, is a perfect fit. And that's why I see this working as well as it has.
I'm surprised for a number of reasons. One is how early he's having this level of success, and the other is the levels to which he's getting. I believed in Lamar Jackson, I think, more than most going into the draft. I never would have thought he could win a league MVP, ever. Like that to me, when Deshaun Watson was coming out of school, I said, okay, that guy one day could be an MVP of this league. It would not shock me. I desperately wanted my Chiefs to take him. Instead, they took Patrick Mahomes. I'm perfectly happy with it. But Lamar, I said, when I saw that Josh Allen was going where he went, and you had 4 quarterbacks go in the top 12 picks, and then you went pick after pick after pick, Lamar's not taken, I thought teams were making a mistake. It was not because I thought he could be the league's most dangerous weapon in year 2. And I don't know know what the future holds for him. And I know that's your concern with all of these quarterbacks. And by the way, the quarterbacks in Dak's class, most notably the top 2 picks, Goff and Wentz, is proving the let me wait to anoint them model correct, because Goff has been terrible. Wentz has been really bad this year. After we saw both those guys have years not quite as good as Lamar's, but close to Lamar's. So I understand that we don't know what he'll be in 2023. But right now, what he is unguardable, the way he's playing, because in addition to the running not deteriorating at all, he is becoming a better passer, and he is able to see the reads that he's getting from the defense because they're afraid of the run. And yeah, a lot of them are his first option easy read, but they're damn effective. And they were effective last night against a talented, desperate Rams defense that had no answer for what they were doing.
I'm absolutely shocked. I mean, I had 2 main concerns. One was the passing. I was not impressed with the way he passed the ball last year, especially in that playoff game. And I looked at it like the Chargers are the one team that has seen him for the second time. And they completely shut him down, especially in the first half, the first 3 quarters. So, and you said it, what you said is scary. He has a long way to improve as a passer. So if he does that, then who knows what this could be in store for us. The second concern was this summer when John Harbaugh said, so he was asked, will he run 139 times like Cam Newton? And he said, take the over. I'm sorry, I didn't think he could survive. He took 2 big shots last night. One kind of running up the middle, one on the sidelines.
One of them was real late in the game when I didn't even know.
And so that was 3 then, because I saw the 2 I saw were in the first half. But I'm surprised, and I felt like this is why you have not seen this before in the NFL. Because I don't know if we've seen a runner like him, but we've seen great running quarterbacks, whether it was in college or some guys in the NFL. But I didn't think you could stay healthy long enough or long term, even a full season like this, especially at his size. So I'm very surprised.
Well, we're not through the full season. We've seen a bunch of situations where someone's quarterback gets hurt the week before the playoffs or a couple weeks before the playoffs. And look, if you're going to expose your quarterback to this type of punishment and the type of runner that he is, he's not avoiding contact. No. He enjoys contact, and that's great. And it galvanizes the team, and it excites everybody. I just don't think it's sustainable. The law of averages is that you're gonna get hurt when you get exposed to this type of contact over and over again.
But aren't you comforted in what you've seen him be able to do in the pocket? That if for some reason that aspect of his game is cut short, the progress at least he's made between last year and this year, being able to throw the ball, his accuracy, that he could rely on that if they do have to slow down his running a little?
I think that it will have to get better, but I think we have seen enormous progression from year 1 to year 2. He is saying and said all the right things about his commitment to getting better. That's the part of him you love the most. That, yes, I don't think he's a player who, the moment he is not the most electric running quarterback we've seen since Michael Vick, his production falls away. I mean, hell, we even saw Michael Vick post-dogfighting when he was with Philly, when he wasn't the great runner, turn into a much more polished passer, almost won a league MVP. And I know this might sound heretical to you, but I think longevity and sustainability might be a little overrated if you're this good right now. They're paying him nothing. It's not like they're committed to him for 100. If he gets hurt, they're ruined.
I think you're right, except if you're Lamar Jackson. Wouldn't you want longevity and sustainability and a long-term contract and to be rewarded for the things that you're giving to the organization? And it's fine. It's fine from a team perspective because you have a chance to win and win big. And if that's the goal, okay. And look, that's everybody's goal. But I don't know how long-term.
You marry up his career goals with what they're trying to do right now.
The team goals. And historically, when guys get paid a lot of money, they tend to run less because they make business decisions and they want to keep that contract. To me, the games that we've seen have been played on the Ravens' terms. And if they can play games like this where they have the lead and they're comfortably ahead, that to me is a perfect formula. If it becomes a situation where the whole stadium knows he has to pass, they can the running game isn't as much of a threat. The The defense is being threatened. That, to me, is what we have to see.
It'll be good to see them down 10 points.
That's where we have to find out how much he's developed as a passer.
Does New England, because the only team I've seen, Kansas City, we'll see if they get it together.
Yep.
But New England is their biggest threat to a Super Bowl. Do they have the personnel? We know Belichick can come up with something, but do they have the personnel to stop him?
Yeah, you're going to have to try some different things, and maybe it's an extreme amount of pressure. So if you can't match up against these runs, which are unique runs, and the runs that you don't see very much week in and week out. So you really got to prepare differently. And if you try to match up with all that stuff, you're not going to do a very good job. It's a little bit like playing New Orleans on defense. You can't match all the things that they do. So you may take the approach of just pressuring and try to blow up some of those runs and not let them get started. So that's one philosophy. Some teams will go big where they'll play 4 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and say, okay, we are going to do everything we can to stop the run. Beat us throwing the ball and show us that you can beat us throwing the ball.
Look, we'll get a good test next week. They play the 49ers against that defense, so you get a good chance to see what they can do against Lamar. Nick, would Dallas be making mistakes sticking with Jason Garrett the rest of this season?
I think they would be. They know they're moving on from him after this year. And I understand there's not a lot of instances of interim NFL coach leading team on deep playoff run. In fact, there might be 0 instances in modern NFL history. But they have a 0% chance of going on a deep playoff run as presently constituted. And now I want to say this to be fair to Jason Garrett. I don't think he's a terrible NFL coach. And I know there are rumors that the Giants might want him. He might be the exact type of coach a team such as the Giants need. Meaning he might be a coach that is good to stabilize and get you to where 8-8 is an excellent season. But he is clearly not the type of coach the Cowboys need to play up to the level of their talent. He is not going to be able to match wits on game day with the best coaches in the NFL, and that's why when they play teams with equitable talent, they lose every single week. So I know he's not going to be the coach next year, Coach, so I don't know why you would not want to see if you can have one last card to play for your season this year, which is an injection of energy by moving on from him during the year.
Who do you replace him with? Kellen Moore?
No,
Chris Richard?
on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay, so you replace him with
Chris
who?
Richard or Rod Marinelli.
Okay, so
Chris Broussard is not going to coach.
Chris Richard,
Oh,
sorry.
gotcha.
If I said Richard.
So you replace him with one of those guys who have limited head coaching.
Marinelli's got some, Richard's got none.
Okay,
Yep.
and so you think you're going to get better situationally by doing that? And are you going to hurt the defense by doing that? And hasn't he won 3 out of the last 5 division titles, and he's on his way to win a 4th, so he's going to win 4 out of 6? I don't understand why there's such a rush to move on from him now. Let's see how this plays out. And to say there's a 0% chance of him winning a playoff game,
I said go on a deep playoff run.
Well, look, anybody who gets into the playoffs has a chance to go on a run, and I've been part of teams that nobody gave us a chance to go on a deep run, and you get hot at the right time, and you're a little bit healthier than everybody else, anything can happen. But to make a change now, the guy has won 3 out of the last 5 division championships, and he's on his way to winning a 4th. I just don't see why you would push it now.
I'm with Coach on this one. And look, I agree. He's not the coach next year unless they get to the Super Bowl. That would be my standard. I've seen enough if I'm Jerry Jones. And I think Jones coming out and criticizing him publicly for the first time in 10 years, I think that shows that he feels like you do. He's gone barring some miracle run. I think they need to get to the Super Bowl. But again, you said it, Nick. There's no examples of an interim coach. He actually is the best interim coach in the last 10, 15, 20 years when he went 5-3. Wade Phillips went 1-7. So I don't think you make a change now. And I don't think, while they don't look good, in the past, I know they haven't beaten good teams this year, but they were 13-3 a few years ago. They beat some good teams. Last year, 10-6, they beat some pretty good teams. So I don't think it's impossible with this talent to win a playoff game or 2, but it's unlikely with him, but I don't get rid of him.
The Cowboys have not been ruined by injuries. We all would agree with that. They've had some injuries, but they're around league average for games lost due to injury. They've actually been a little healthier than the average team. They have drafted exceptionally well over the last few years. They have as much talent They're a top 5 talent in the league, with the question going into the year was their quarterback, who is having a top 5 quarterback season this year. Why are they 6-5? Why have they lost 5 of 8? Why can they not beat a good team? Why can they not win a close game? Why can they not start games off well? That's coaching. And we can't, NFL head coach, Coach obviously knows far better than me how hard of a job it is, but we all know how important of a job it is. And we can say they would be doing a rash decision by doing it now, or obviously not going to do it now, they have a game in 2 days, but doing it during the season. He has had as much time. The only coaches who's been with their team longer is Belichick, Peyton, Tomlin, John Harbaugh, and Sean Payton. All of them have won a Super Bowl. All of them have at least 7 playoff wins. He's got 2. So despite the division titles, what they have not achieved up to there's the list. They all have 8 playoff wins. I shortchanged Sean Payton 1. They've all been to a Super Bowl and won it. He hasn't even been to a conference championship game.
Are you going to get rid of Andy Reid in Kansas City? He hasn't made deep playoff runs since he's been there. I mean, are you saying that because of that he's underachieved? And look, part of this job is being able to get along with the GM/owner.
So that's, I think, the part of what his longevity is. He's got the one thing that none of these other coaches have. He has this loyalty to Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones buys into it, and they have a great relationship.
Well, I don't know if it's as much loyalty, Jenna, as it is. You have to have a working relationship, and it's a difficult spot when the GM is also the owner, because it's not like he's ever going to go anywhere, and there's got to be some give and take, and there's a thought process that it couldn't be worse. It could be worse. It could be a lot worse.
I know it could be worse, but this is the team they're going to have next year. We don't know about Amari Cooper, but they are locked into this roster. Dak will be back. Everyone that matters is locked in. They're not going to have some influx of talent. And you mentioned Andy Reid. Listen, Andy Reid has not been the coach of the Chiefs as long as Jason Garrett's been the coach of the Cowboys.
I mean, but 7 years, right? He's been there 7, and
last year he made a conference championship game. Something Jason Garrett has never done. And I do wonder, what would, and Andy Reid has fair criticisms on game management stuff, agreed. What would the Cowboys look like if Andy Reid were their head coach? Come on. What would they, or Kyle Shanahan, or John Harbaugh, or any of those other guys on that list, or a dozen coaches in this league with this level of talent? Hell, Mike Vrabel has the Tennessee Titans. They got the same records as the Cowboys, right? They're on their second quarterback. They don't have 40% of the talent as the Cowboys.
They're on the second quarterback because they changed quarterbacks, and he took over a team that was 9-7.
Right. So, but I guess my argument is with Titans, no, but they're on their second quarterback because they changed quarterbacks because the quarterback was playing that poorly. They still have 6 wins. Dak was playing like a fringe MVP candidate. They've got 6 wins.
I only disagree with you on the timing now. I just don't think you do it now. I don't think that benefits the team. That could blow the season up if you change it now. At least now it looks like they're going to make the playoffs with Garrett, and then you take your chances, and after that you can get rid of it.
Well, I'll tell Fox, if you know you're going to fire me after Christmas, fire me before Christmas. Let me I'll just take the time now. I mean, if you know you're going to move on, there's no reason not to do it now.
Coach, you want to play Drawing a Blank?
Sure.
Here we go. Patriots took down the Cowboys Sunday in Foxborough. New England has now tied a franchise record with 21 straight home wins. So, Broussard, the team you would least like to face on the road in the playoffs is blank.
It's got to be the Patriots. I think they won 20 straight games in Foxborough. Including the playoffs. They haven't lost there since October of 2017. So definitely it's the Patriots. I don't want to go there if I don't have to.
Yeah, it's absolutely New England. And what we'd find is after we started winning, teams would come in and they'd be a little bit intimidated by the mystique before we even started playing the game.
Or intimidated by the calls they get in that building. But I'm going to say the Saints. I think you're both wrong.
Wow.
I
always making an excuse for success.
And the weather,
I'm not making an excuse for the success. Be careful, Coach. I might trip you. And by trip you, I mean you might just fall over and it's a game-changing penalty. But listen, the Saints
you got that, Coach,
in that building with that crowd noise. I understand they lost in that building conference championship game last year under some very questionable circumstances. They've been building towards this moment. I think the 1 seed in the NFC is going to be wildly important. What the Patriots had for the lion's share of that winning streak you guys are talking about is a good quarterback. They don't have that right now, so I don't know how intimidating the venue is going to be. I say the Saints.
He's still good. Not good.
Yeah.
Still good.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Moving on.
He lost one game.
Right, they're 10-1.
So he's horrible.
Jared Goff and the Rams crushed last night by the Ravens 45-6. LA dropping to 6-5 on the season, currently outside of the playoffs as the 7th seed. Broussard, the team outside of the playoffs most likely to make it, is blank.
Believe it or not, I'm not just saying this because Coach is here. You live in Cleveland.
I do.
I'm going with the Browns because I'm looking at schedules. Tennessee is playing great, but they got a tough schedule.
They play Houston twice.
Right. And Indianapolis, I don't believe in. Oakland, I was stunned. I know some people thought they could predict what happened this weekend. I was stunned by it. So I'm going with the Browns. They won 3 straight. Only one. Steelers could be a tough game.
And
but really, it's
Baltimore.
just the Ravens. And then they got the Bengals twice and Arizona. So.
Yeah, I'm doubling down on the Browns too. I said the same thing after the Buffalo game, as I thought that they could run the rest of the season, and it seems like they've got a better handle on the outside issues, the distractions, and look, it's all ahead of them if they can just keep it under control.
Don't do it, Nick.
I'm not doing it, even though I think the Browns could make the playoffs. My preseason prediction of 10-6 is still alive. I want them to, but I'm going to go Philly. Because Philly's got a much easier path. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, handle the Dallas Cowboys, and you're in. And even if they get swept by the Cowboys, they still could win that division because of the way Dallas is playing. And Philly's got 2 left against the Giants, 1 left against Washington, 1 left against Miami. So Philly, as poorly as Wentz is playing and as up and down as they've been, I still think they're the team most likely of all the teams not in the playoffs right now to make it to the playoffs. But I would love for Baker and Odell's orange Rolls-Royce gonna love so much to show up in the playoffs. That'd be fun.
The answer is actually not the Browns. It says you're not the Browns. Anyone but the Browns is the correct answer there. Nick, you got that one. With the Seahawks win over the Eagles on Sunday, Russell Wilson became the first quarterback ever to lead his team to a winning record in each of his first 8 NFL seasons. That deserved a cough. Broussard, the quarterback you trust most right now is blank.
I'm very tempted to say Russell Wilson. I mean, this guy's just phenomenal, and he always just seems to be able to win a game. But I'm going with Lamar Jackson. What's not to like right now? The only reason I think they may lose another game in the regular season is just because they're due. Like, at some point, they're going to lose again, most likely. Could be against San Francisco this next game, but I'm going with Lamar right now.
I'm absolutely going with Tom Brady. I don't know how you couldn't go with Tom Brady. You need a quarterback to win
not
a
playoff game. Just a regular season game.
A quarterback to win. How do you choose anybody besides Tom Brady? First of all, he's not going to make the mistakes that kill you. Then he's going to make a ton of great decisions that maximize the talent that you have. And he's got every track record you could possibly want of success under pressure.
He does have a great track record of success. Abraham Lincoln had an amazing track record as president.
Right,
I wouldn't want him as the president right now. Well, maybe, but the
prisoner of the moment.
I mean,
Lamar Jackson's going to the Hall of Fame. Tom Brady's washed up.
Right now, hold on, Coach.
Right now.
How are you not taking your guy in Kansas City?
Well,
how is that possible?
Hold on a second. So the question is the quarterback you trust most to get a win. And I do trust Patrick Mahomes more than any quarterback in the league.
Then that
put his
should be
team
your
in
answer.
position to get the win. But then they could give the win away. So I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, who I do believe Lamar's passed him in the quarterbacking higher in the MVP race. Russell Wilson, though, he has the ability to put his team in position to get a win as high as anyone in the league aside from Mahomes, and his team has a better ability to hold those leads than the Chiefs.
So on record, he's saying that he doesn't think that Patrick Mahomes is reliable.
No,
and he
that
will
is not
give
what I'm
away
saying.
wins.
That is not what I'm saying.
Playing with words. It's put in position.
That is not what. That's not what I'm saying.
And coaches, quarterback, not organization.
Coaches on the record for Tom Brady, who I don't think has led a 60-plus yard touchdown drive in 2 months.
I am on the record for Tom Brady.
Is he even the best quarterback on his own team? Julian Edelman, I think, has as many touchdown passes in the last 2 weeks.
I mean, look, years and years of success, but let's anoint someone who's won 3 games.
Love hanging out with you, Coach, as always. The Philadelphia 76ers were up in Toronto to face the Raptors. Last time Joel Embiid was north of the border in a basketball setting, he left in tears. And last night wasn't much better. Embiid finishing 0 for 11 from the field, 0 for 3 from the free throw line. So quick calculations gives me 0 points on the night for Joel Embiid. Sixers lose 101-96. Nick, we got to have this conversation about Joel Embiid. Did we overrate him?
Well, where did we rate him? Because going into the year, I said, and I don't have to list them, there was a clear-cut top 8 players in the league if healthy. Steph was healthy. KD, we included him in it because we knew who those 8 guys were all battling. They're basically, those 8 guys were the guys everyone says are top 5 players. Embiid was the first man out of that. He was, I think, considered a top 10 guy, and
so you had him as the best center.
Well, I had Anthony Davis in the top 8. What is Anthony Davis? But yes, better than Jokic.
Okay,
better than Jokic and an MVP candidate. A guy that the only person in the East who gave him trouble defensively, the Sixers acquired, and now Horford, because Horford actually could defend him well. And yeah, it's disappointing. And I understand the Sixers have issues that aren't about Joel Embiid. They have not replaced Jimmy Butler's late game scoring, and Ben Simmons continues to be a plague on them at the end of games. He has been awful at the end of games, last night included. Last night, they're down 3. They get the ball. He takes a heave when they don't have to take a heave. Could have gotten a better look with a few seconds left. That's why they ended up losing by 5, was because of dunk in the final seconds. It was a one-possession game at the end. But this game can't happen ever. Broussard, I say this not tongue-in-cheek, but you can speak to it. This cannot happen to a great high school player.
I was thinking that when we talked about it earlier. You're right. High school, college, pro, a great player has. I can't think of one who's ever been scoreless.
The best player on your team, not
scoreless.
Scoreless. You listen. The best players in the league, they score at least double digits every night, except for maybe once a season.
Right.
Like LeBron's got that insane record, 900 some games. Next closest record's around 250. It's because usually about once a year you have a 3 for 11. You don't get to the line. You have 8 points. It's like, man, it's a terrible game. To go over in a close game, it'd be one thing if it's
against
like
a rival.
Against a rival where you were, like Jenna mentioned, you were devastated the year before. It'd be one thing if it were a blowout. Like they were down 32 at the half. He had a bad first half, barely plays in the second half. It's like, okay, he was 0 for 5, didn't score. It'd be awful. But to play 32 minutes in a one-possession game throughout, a game where there are 21 ties or lead changes, and to not score, I've never seen it happen in the NBA.
It's unfathomable. When I read it, I thought it was, because I didn't see the game.
Thought he got hurt or in foul trouble?
Yeah, I thought it was a misprint. How in the world does a great player go scoreless? I mean, it's unbelievable, but you look at the highlights that we were showing. You can see why a 7-footer would go scoreless. He's taking 3-pointers. He's, ball handling the ball, taking long twos. Where are the post-ups? Look at this. I mean, that's why you go scoreless as a 7-footer. It's nice that occasionally he can step out and hit the 3. You saw that post up in the turnaround kind of fadeaway 3. None of this stuff is at the rim. And if you're missing shots like this, you have to be smart enough. And look, I'll give Brett Brown credit, but you got to tell him, why hasn't Brett Brown put him down there in the block? There you see one, he tries to make a move, but get him down low, get him fouled at the very least, or let him score. Very few people. Now, Marc Gasol is a good defender. Serge Ibaka didn't even play. Okay? So for this to happen in this game, as far as him being overrated, look, he's still a very good player. I think Jokic is a better center, but he's at least the second best.
Think about
center.
how many guys, though, from 2 years ago to right now, though, have leapt him in the hierarchy. Giannis and he were close. Giannis is now worlds ahead of him. Luka wasn't in the league. Luka's worlds ahead of him. Jokic is now ahead of him, right? Like you just said, you think Jokic is better than him. Paul George was not considered better than him 3 years ago, or that he was the direction Embiid was going. Paul George is now undeniably better than him. Kawhi, when healthy, was always better than him. We now know he is. Forget Harden. Forget LeBron. Forget it's.
His shot selection is poor, and a lot of that's got to be on the coaching staff. He's shooting 45% from the floor. Very few big men can stop him down low. Why isn't he punishing people on the block? That's a problem not only for Embiid, but for the coaching staff. But 0 points is...
And I give the Raptors credit. Not only are they 12-4 post Kawhi, Lowry's been hurt. You mentioned that Ibaka's out. LeBron had his worst game of the season against them. Kawhi had his worst game of the season against them. And LeBron and Kawhi, both in those games, midway through the fourth quarter, were in single digits, both of them. And Embiid had his worst game of the season against them. And they're long, and they're springy, and they're well coached. But 0 points can't happen at any level of basketball. And I've never seen it happen in the NBA for a guy who we think one day could be a true MVP of the league.
I know neither of you had the Sixers coming out of the East, but it's undeniable. I did. Oh, you did have the Sixers coming out of the East. Well, it's undeniable this has been a disappointing season, at least thus far into the season.
And everyone in the world had them in the conference finals. Anyone acting like they didn't at least have them in the conference finals is lying.
But Toronto's in the hunt.
Toronto's in the hunt.
Hard.
Boston's in the hunt.
Close.
Boston won last night with no Kimba.
You're right.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern.